At that time, I sold pirate videos. I used to buy 500 blanks at a time. I had 10 video recorders, and that's how I paid my rent, and I lived my life. The constabulary rudely let themselves in my apartment at 6 in the morning. That's the police, for those not in the know. And they shut that business.
You were referencing Ice-T song 6 in the morning?
Say that again?
You said 6 in the morning. You talking about Ice-T song 6 in the morning, cops at my door. Go ahead. I was just making sure. Please keep going.
At 6 a.m. Yeah. They make sure you're not organized at that time in the morning when they disrupt you. But what that business taught me, an illicit business, was money control, because from the age of 18, I had cash. It taught me manufacturing, distribution, credit control, because I learned to read people from an early age, and I knew who was trustworthy based on who I'd go and collect money from through the week. So those are transferable skills. And this is why when you look at the guys who are hustlers, who became rappers, and you look at the top 1%, like 50 and Jay, they have a different business acumen because they learned as kids who to trust, who not to trust, how to manage money, and be mercenary about business. Those are transferable skills, and they're skills you never lose. You learn to trust your instincts very early because you get burned. And that's a private tuition that nobody sees. In the age of 24 hours, we don't know. Today, somebody might be there with an iPhone, but when I was learning, it was private.
Wow. That's an interesting story, man. So you're saying you got started off, I don't really think that it doesn't sound like it was really bad criminal activity.
No,
right. I mean, you weren't hurting anybody, you weren't killing anybody, it sounds like it was something that any of us could have done. I remember doing stuff like that, when I got started, because you're trying to find a way to make trying to find a way to make money. And in fact, I went to a store in a black neighborhood here that was owned by people who were not black. It was an Arab store, and everything in the store was fake movies, fake music, fake bootleg everything. And the cops came in to the store to buy some of the stuff in the store, and I also wonder, I wonder if black people are able to get away with that kind of stuff as readily as everybody else. But then again, who knows?
Away with that stuff. It was not my only business at that age, so possibly it may have come there for another reason.
So you started off as an entrepreneurial spirit. What was it that was in your background that led you to want to own your own business? I hear some music.
Coming from
is that on my end or your end? So let me give me 1 second. I'm gonna turn off all my browsers. I don't know what that is.
I don't know what that is.
Do me a favor. Can you turn off any of your browsers and anything? Because sometimes these sites start talking without permission. Let me see. Let me try this. I think it's on your end. Give me. Let me know if it's is it gone? Okay, good. Okay, all right. So that was the only way I could test. I said, let me mute your mic and then I'll mute mine and we'll see where But it's all good, man. So okay, so you what was it as a child? First of all, where'd you grow up?
I grew up in South London. I grew up on council estates that you guys would call projects, but they don't compare because when I was growing up, the gun crime wasn't there, and by and large, the knife crime wasn't there. The knife crime is there heavy now. By the time I become a teenager, the knife crime was there. But when I was a kid, the knife crime wasn't there like that.
Really?
And it wasn't my parents. You have this thing, genetic DNA. And both of my grandfathers, whose middle name I have, both my mum's dad was named Richard. And my father's name was Richard. So I inherited their names, Dean Richard Okai. And they were both businessmen. So I fear it may skip a generation, but it landed on me. And both of them, my grandfather on my mum's side was a tradesman. He came over in the Windrush generation from Jamaica, and he was a property owner. And my grandfather on my dad's side was a hustler. He smuggled diamonds. He worked with a lot of people in London at that time, and he was a businessman. And it's in my genetic DNA. but my father's a musician, so I was a creative as well. I wanted to make movies from the time I was a child. But what I didn't do was listen to anybody. Whenever somebody told me based on their limitations what I could do, I wasn't interested. Because I knew my, but more importantly, I knew my own spirit. And I think most entrepreneurs know that calling when they look at people and they'll just give the Jay-Z nod.
Interesting. So you feel like you you felt like it was more of a calling more so than, you know, sort of something that you were kind of pushed into, or something that you also said something that was interesting to me. You said that you didn't enjoy being told what to do when you were young, and I relate to that too. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 18, and because I learned that if I have my own place, no one can tell me what to do. So I think sometimes it seems like that's part of it as well. Now tell me about your businesses. What do you sell now? Is one of them like a shoe company or something, or am I making that up in my head?
So I've got a clothes store, and we literally go from A to Z. We sell shoes through suits, jeans, overcoats, rain macs, and casual wear. So it's literally every single thing on my body, 7 days a week, is from my store. And I've got a creative business as well, which is a not-for-profit company. We're speaking today is literally as a representative of Transition of the Black Pound, which is a not-for-profit think tank. And that thinking, I saw your spiritual grandfather, Dr. Claude Anderson, about, I say about 5 years ago. I came across Dr. Claude Anderson, and I was sitting down watching one of his speeches. It must have been about 2.5 hours. And he was talking about the fish farms and connecting everything. And he just got me as a businessman, but also as a black man that has always been trying to bring my friends on the journey. Come, if we do this stuff together as guys, we'll take over. And there's a part of London, South London, where all the nefarious action happens, and it's very hard to organize, based on the fact that people have very dark experiences, and they just learn not to expect much. And you're taught at an early age that you don't deserve much. So I moved around 12 years ago, my businesses, to East London, where I had a creative not-for-profit. And it was training young people, but working exactly how the BBC do in England, in training young people and then owning the intellectual property at the end of the food chain. So somebody else paid. So when you're training people, you pay the crew with the money that comes from training. And that is exactly how I recognized that you can do based on money from outside. And then I thought about the great train robbery. Why? I ask all black people this. Why do you pay tax? And you see that face you're wearing right now? Black people wear exactly the same face, which is a little bit of befuddlement and confused, because you pay tax for representation, right? Who represents you? Nobody. So I came up with a concept of the great train robbery. And that's when me and my partner set up the Transition of the Black Pound, Sonia McCoy, because she said she wanted to change the world. And I said, do you know what? You can change the world, and I will enable you to do exactly that based on my intellectual capital. I'm a businessman. Businessmen think as thieves, true or false? Think about what, because we deserve it, as far as we're concerned. So I started to think about the not-for-profit I had when we took money based on trainees and paid the crew. And I said, all businesses can donate 100% of their taxable income. And it led me to a concept of setting up a national database of black chartered accountants, because they're the ones that we're going to need to enable the businesses to donate their taxes. But then what will that enable our organization to do? Work as an African Caribbean development bank who invest in infrastructure projects. Farrakhan and you guys have been sitting down having these conversations about purchasing the land, but not based on our private money, on our tax donations. So Dr. Claude Anderson set me on this path of thinking. Now he's fighting the good fight against the reparations. However, with reparations, I'm paying the court system that money. But I think as a businessman, and I merely want to purchase freehold commercial buildings, first, the African Caribbean chambers of commerce. So if we own our own chambers of commerce, all the black businesses in the borough are congregating in one central location. So it acts as an incubator for young businesses. You purchase a building, you make it state of the art. And along this period, I've been attracting the talented 10% for whatever reason. All the way from financial organization through to property purchase to financial solutions. In terms of all these educational classes that you're teaching, I've managed to recruit these people in Britain. So for whatever reason, they've come around me and my magnet has attracted them. My skills are problem solving skills, which is merely assigning roles. We don't need leadership. Another Al Sharpton, for lack of a better name, to lead 1,000 people in the wrong direction. This is intellectual masturbation. It's a waste of time as far as I'm concerned. I'm not demonizing anybody, but
well, I'll tell you, yeah, I don't even think we needed the first Al Sharpton, but please go ahead.
I'm with you. We're on the same page. But we need project managers to manage delivery partners to deliver singular solutions all the way to fruition. I'm no longer talking about why other people are educating our children. I homeschool my son. Me and his mum took him out of school, going on 2 years now. He has no concept of having a boss because he watches his father. My son subscribes to your channel. He tried to phone me on my cell because he is watching me and you right now.
All right, I love it. How old is he? How old are your kids?
10 years old.
10.
And
wow.
Okai. Dean Okai, my junior.
Man, my brother, I love it. I love it. I mean, you know, I love the fact that you understand something that a lot of people are still learning, is that a lot of these systems that we commit ourselves to are optional. You don't have to send your children to a school where they're being educated by a bunch of people who don't care anything about him. You know, you don't have to go work for people who care nothing about you and your community. You have the option of doing your own thing. And it seems like you figured that out. Just the same way you moved out of your parents' house. Sounds like you moved out of the white man's house too. I love it.
I will say one thing about that. I had a business from 98 to 2000. I had a couple of phone stores. And me and my business partner, we had 3 burglaries in 3 months. And 2000 was the year I decided to start to extrapolate myself from their system. So no medical, I've taken no prescription drugs since 2000. And I cut myself off from the system, literally practicing for the world to go dark for 24 hours. So I've been training for the zombie holocaust. And I speak to my son about this concept of the zombie holocaust, where we don't rely on anything from anybody. So in that, there's nothing that they can take away from me. So then I said, now I can practice my right to free speech because there's nothing you can take away from me. And then more than the concept of free speech, I can literally do what I like because you can't punish me other than extinguishing my life. And I don't think I'm that important.
Wow. So you really have taken the idea of self-reliance to a level that most people don't take it. You know, a lot of people may think self-reliance just has to do with just being an entrepreneur, but you've actually become self-reliant in almost every area. You've even extracted yourself from the pharmaceutical companies that are making money by getting people addicted to drugs. Right. You know, which we know it's a global problem. Well, I love it, man. I mean, I think it's awesome. I love what you're teaching your son. I think that's extraordinary. Oh, please.
It was a process because as men, we define ourselves by our businesses, what we do when we're making money. Our ego is in the equation to a large degree. And when I lost that business, it taught me solitude. So I spent time by myself. Just like in the Master Keys, I'll see people dancing in the club and waving their keys. The Jay-Z's, I got the Master Keys. But I heard what you said. Until you're by yourself, you can't be me. Until yourself, you can't be free. Why are we still slaves in 2016? And in that period, I was truly by myself. And I learned to know myself. So I learned my limitations, learned exactly who I am, and I knew what I wanted. And then I set about putting together exactly what I wanted. And then I came out in my next incarnation, which is where I told you about the media training. And at that time, when I was with my son's mum, who is a creative and a lovely lady, and I couldn't homeschool my son without his mum playing her role. We're no longer together, but she is a rock that raises him and does 60% of the schooling. So don't just look at me like I'm a superhero. I have my son 40% of the time. I have my son 2 days a week, and she does his schooling 3 days a week. And then he attends a leadership academy, which is run by the Nation guys, which is the Northwest London Black Boys Leadership Academy. And he does that on a Saturday. So at this stage is to make up a matrix of the education. But I came to my position via a process. I didn't cut anything off just like that. So when people look at it, they got to start preparing themselves to sit by themselves. And then you don't have to listen to anybody. But before that, you have to prepare, because you can't go cold. You see this system, white supremacy, that people engage in for short-term gains. It's like heroin. It absolutely, physically, financially, mentally, and spiritually addicts you. And like heroin, you've got to wean yourself off of that addiction, because we are addicted. It's like the David Banner concept that he speaks about when he says your processing unit has a virus. The African processing unit, the European virus was uploaded, but we haven't sought any form of antivirus for that whatsoever. Me and a very good friend and colleague are working on a documentary now called Replacing the Program, which is a 10-part documentary that deals with the antivirus. And the antivirus are quite literally all those solutions that I was talking to. They work within politics, economics, and they go across the board. I have a gentleman who has a program called Man in the Mirror, who just literally deals with sexual abuse around African Caribbeans, which is an inheritance of slavery and the perversions that were inflicted on us, because we've inherited them from the Caribbean, and you know what they are in the States. You know via your own experiences how many women that you've been with have been tampered with by family. So we got to start addressing all of this stuff, and there can't be secrets anymore. So I'm an avid watcher of your videos, and I know that I have a counterpart in the States, and I'm literally trying to duplicate, not at your level, sir, but what you're doing in the UK with delivery partners. Because once I learned to extrapolate my ego from the equation, it made it much easier for me to work with delivery partners to deliver solutions for the masses. The concept of the talented 10% coming together with no brain drain to deliver solutions for us. But that taxable income is going to give us the fluid to actually deliver these solutions.
Yes, well, I love it. Well, everybody who's watching, I want you to know, if you just came in, I'm talking to Mr. Dean Okai. Dean lives in London, and Dean is a great Black leader in London. He's doing some amazing things. Dean, people are asking about your website. And I want to make sure we repeat this several times so people know how they can follow you. Can you give one or two of your key websites?
Has been on me for this. So the website will be up by Friday, and she has been on me for a month and a half. We have all the content, but I'm going to give it to you now.
Okay.
So the website, transitionoftheblackpound.org.
Transitionoftheblackpound.org. Okay. And so everybody who's listening in the U.S., they just like when we talk about the black dollar, he's talking about the black pound. And we're trying to control our dollars, they're controlling their pounds, and we have to have these connections, globally in order for us to achieve our goal. And I think that as Americans, we don't get enough, we don't spend enough time learning how to lace ourselves with other people around the world doing the same work. I convict myself of that very same mistake, because I didn't realize, I think 2 years ago, Dean, I did not realize how many students I had that were in the UK. I did, we get so caught up in thinking about what's happening here. And I went to London and I just emailed out and I said, hey, if you happen to be in London, I'm going to be here. We're going to have a gathering. And all these people showed up, and I was embarrassed. I was really embarrassed that I didn't know that I had so many students in London, and it just woke me up to, the limitations of my own thinking. So I thought, if I'm this limited in my thinking, most of us must be. And I think it's important for us to know to sort of overcome that limitation. You know, get your passport. Make sure your kids have a passport. You got to travel the world because the world is bigger than the United States. You know, and I think that, and maybe you can give me your take on this, but you know, it seems that I know in the U.S. our media is so focused on, you know, on what's happening here. You know, you'll even see where the same publication will have they'll have branches all throughout the world, and in the U.S. the cover story will be something totally different from what's happened, what they're, you know, giving to the rest of the world. So it's almost like less intelligent news. You know, we're more likely to hear about Kim Kardashian getting a new ass shot than we are to hear about, you know, something that's really important happening to other Black people around the world. Can you kind of give me your take on that? You know, your perception of what's going on in Black America based on where you are as a Black man in London.
Absolutely. But why wouldn't they? Keep you dumb. Look, it never benefits anybody, to any government, to have an underclass that is thinking. Because the minute you start thinking, first of all, you're going to detach. And that's revolution. So forget about uprisings. Europeans will call them riots. Whatever you want to call them, the minute you start to extrapolate your capital from the equation, that's the true revolution. Once you become self-sustainable, look, if I keep you, what do Americans say? You know what you hear Americans say all over the world? I can't wait to get back to the world, to get back to the world, because your world is the States. It's a warm blanket, a hammock of safety that you believe will never be invaded, which is why they call anybody who is non-domestic, or should I say non-white, a terrorist. And then as soon as domestic terrorist, they become the lone wolf. This is why they create this coded language, because it keeps you guys simple and it makes you feel safe around white guys, because the white terrorists only strike every 10 years or so. But those other terrorists might strike any minute. So you keep the fear in your chest because they're all external enemies. So we don't think about African-American patsies being set up. It's like if you watch the movie, whenever you watch these movies around conspiracy theories, like the Mark Wahlberg movie, Sniper, you might look at a certain African-American sniper along with the Black Lives Matter movement and say, what if that man were conscripted by the government to run a theory of assassinating police and then set up for exactly the same thing? My God, maybe he didn't do it. And it was so convenient. They blew him up and all the evidence was gone and everybody believed it. You bought it. And you said, Black people said, he's our hero. He killed police. Let me ask you a question. If a man were truly a Black activist, why would he assassinate police on the first inaugural Black Lives Matter march? It makes zero sense to me. And melanated family, it's not illegal to think yet. Knowing the history of your government and creating patsies, think about it. So it makes sense to keep the populace simple and dumb. Thinking about so we have become dumbed down in general. Our role is to keep our children smart, to counter every message they give. That's why I have extrapolated my son from this system. My 10-year-old boy, Dean Okai, is a perfect ambassador for me because he understands. And we speak in our own coded language. Nobody else would understand. It will seem like we're having the most banal conversation and we're having a completely different conversation in public. So the US is where we all look for leadership. However, we know it's the land of the lost, based on 40 generations of slavery and Jim Crow. Because that European infection on the African operating system becomes stronger with every line of coding they write based on every generation.
Wow.
It's our role, mine, your role, David Banner's role, Dr. Claude Anderson's role, and every other academic's role to place lines of coding which are antivirus in our melanated families' minds. And the thing that I do is gather the 10%. It's not my role to convince Anglo-Saxons to be decent people. It's not my role to convince people who desire to follow their miseducation, their indoctrination. Is purely my role to gather the talented 10% that reside in the United Kingdom, many of which I've met over the short duration that me and Sonia have been building this organization, Transition of the Black Pound, and accumulate their expertise, business acumen, problem-solving skills and solutions in one place. So when we commit the great train robbery that extrapolates the black business pound out of the economy based on the fact that we're going to send African Caribbean consumers to their business, and this is a concept that I would sell to all my brothers by creating a black business hype mark. Now, you know that all businesses that are formed have a kite mark, but because we turn up, you call it soccer, we call it football. I see this commercial landscape as a Premiership football ground, and we have something called Sunday football where guys mess about, and we've come to play knockabout Sunday football. But white people have come to play Premiership football. So when we turn up for our Sunday knockaround, they're looking at us, are you ready? No, we're not ready, because we got 5 guys and we come to play 5-a-side knockaround. But Premiership football is a multi-billion business. So when we create the black type mark for our businesses, we are now sending, and confident to send, black consumers to those businesses. And when you have an app, let's forget about getting TV or radio licenses anymore. That day is dead. We're not controlled by anybody. You create an app. Now the app has a business recommendation engine. You know our people. We're not coming for the business recommendation engine. The entertainment component is why they will adopt the app. Now, what you need to do, and this is between all the solution makers, you, me, going across the African continent, France, Germany, wherever we find Africans reside, is create an international African news gathering agency. Because then we'll find we're not reacting to the news stories. We are responding to the news stories. So your people become correspondents in the States. My people become correspondents here. Our people become correspondents in Africa. And you have various current affairs shows, like the Daily Show. And then once our people have adopted this concept of taking our news, just like the Arab community did it through Al Jazeera, then we start to introduce the more serious format shows. Now we represent ourselves in the world. And we're no longer countering their stories based on reaction. We respond. And we respond immediately. So those are the conversations we're going to start to have. We now need to perform based on the same tax pound, because we're going to be training. If you're a trainee cameraman, you sit next to the cameraman. That's how I pay his wages. If you're a trainee editor, you sit next to the editor. That's how we pay his wages. If you're a trainee correspondent, you sit next to the correspondent. That's how we pay his and her wages. But do you know what we do? We get this thing financed with capital, and we adopt it globally based on one news gathering agency. So now we are international colleagues delivering solutions. This is the difference when business people enter the playing field of advocacy. We start to think about solutions, and we start to think about the global marketplace. So now I don't see you as a threat based on my ego. I see you as a colleague based on my business acumen. I see you as a delivery partner based on my business acumen. And now what we do is attract the capital, because we know once we've got the true measurement, because everything is digital now, you will be able to give me a complete analytical breakdown from this cost. Based on, and that is what our apps will do. So we'll know that we have 150 million views of one show delivered globally. How much advertising are we going to create from that? Now, if Nike want to engage with us, and I know you went and saw the CEO of Nike, we're going to have different conversations. They're not going to be calling the shots. We're going to tell them the numbers that we want to advertise to our people, because we're businessmen. So now marketplace in a different way. I'm no longer asking you if I can have a spot on your show. So now I'm going to suggest a different concept. I'm going to call African Americans and Africans worldwide to stop speaking on white media for this reason. If you want to quote me from African-based media, because
You
I'm no
know,
longer engaging with your media.
well,
Because
I agree. I agree with that point. You know, I'll say that what you're saying is accurate. I know that I don't really. I stopped doing really all interviews pretty much. 99% of the interview requests I stopped doing once I realized I didn't really want to spend my time building other people's media. You know, because what you're saying is right. You know, I know that. And by the way, everybody who's on Instagram and other places, I do see you. I want the brother to talk, and so I'm letting him speak. So that's why I'm not interrupting what he's saying, so that because they got questions, man. People are loving you, by the way, bro. You're getting all kinds of love, and everybody. I'll say his name so you can write it down. Somebody write it down, please. Type it in so other people can see it. His name is Dean Okai, Okai. His website is transitionoftheblackpound.org, right? It's .org, right?
yeah,
Okay, transitionoftheblackpound.org. Now, to your point, you know, I think that what you're saying is right on point, because I remember, you know, when I first started trying to do things publicly, you know, I would go on all, you know, CNN and MSNBC and even Fox. I used to go on Fox News a long time ago, and I stopped. I banned Fox from my appearance list about 2007 because I said I didn't know you guys were this racist, so I'm never coming back, and I haven't gone back since. But you know, it's like I remember thinking, wait a minute, I'm making money for these outlets. I'm giving something to them. I'm giving them my expertise and everything else. I'm not giving y'all my stuff anymore. So we started building our own outlet space, and so now I get interview requests constantly. But 99% of the time, we're like, well, we don't need to interview with anybody because we've got our own network. We know how to reach people. You can come on our platform if you want to, but you know, it's very rare when I'll go into other places. And I think that just that shift in mindset, I think, is very important, and that's why I like your idea a lot. So it sounds like you've got a lot of ideas that go beyond just the fact that you're an entrepreneur. It almost sounds to me, and you can tell me if I'm correct. It sounds to me like your journey as a Black male entrepreneur has allowed you the freedom of thought, the freedom of in terms of time, and the freedom in terms of expression to really expand and transcend just the idea that you're just getting up going to work to make money every day. It seems like you're really planning on things that will change the world. Is that accurate?
I'll be honest with you. It started quite literally the other way around. I read Malcolm X when I was 17 in 91 because I wanted to read it before I saw the movie. And that was what really shifted my paradigm in terms of my mind because I saw that he was a truth teller. And no matter how the truth would affect him, he moved towards that position. So until obviously his life was extinguished at 39, we never saw the true possibilities of the man. But he came to an area of clarity based on the fact that we needed to control our own economics. He his genetic DNA was as a Garveyite, and I've always been a Garveyite. We underestimate how powerful this man was to have employed 1,000 people in the worst depression known to man. Don't underestimate that concept. You got to remember that Europeans were throwing themselves off buildings in the stock market crash, and this guy managed 1,000 employees across numerous businesses. But more than that, he gave them a discipline, he gave them a pride, and in their uniforms, he was trying to construct a military. So it was literally trying to construct a nation within a nation. It just happens that through the transvestite, J. Edgar Hoover, he was infiltrated, and committed illegal fraud because they sold him a tub with a hole in it. And had that been a private individual, there would have been a miscommunication in terms of the description of the vessel, and it would have been convicted of a fraud, right? But when it came to Marcus Garvey, you convicted him of fraud. So now you've got to learn, based on historical reference point, that your government break the law based on their own desires, which is the same as Reagan being a coke dealer. Sorry, trafficker. The volume was too vast to call him a dealer. So let's speak factually now. So he was never allowed to come to fruition. Now, The reason I've gathered the talented 10% around me is because this train is rolling. And I'm telling you, based on historical reference point, this train will not stop because we are there. And like I told you, that concept of looking at white supremacy as the heroin drip, once you have totally disconnected from it and you've lost that woozy, drowsy feeling, you will never, ever take another shot. You have clarity. And once you have clarity, it's merely about your mission. So my initial education was from that book, and I call that man my stepfather, because all along the line, that's when I started wearing a suit, probably 3 years later. I've been wearing suits a long time. My friends from South London, guys I've known 36 years, call me Malcolm, because they say I preach too much. And this is from the age of like 18. So I took those lessons, and it was merely about forming myself into the position based on experience and the accumulation of intellectual capital that I could turn into wisdom, which is implemented in my real life, which is where I am now. So I don't keep it to myself anymore. I don't keep secrets. I share my information, and I share it vastly. So the fact that we're speaking today means that now from tomorrow, we're trading strategies immediately. And all of the delivery partners that I come across, we're trading strategies immediately. And
all right.
Everything based on ego. So now there's no head, is there? Because
Well,
now, place a system, you have to create a system. If we don't think systematically, then we're playing games. You can't have an organization based on difference. So the fact that you're melanated, I don't care whether you're left-handed, your sexuality, even though neither of us celebrate an alternative lifestyle. I don't care about your religion. The fact that you are a melanated man, I now pay you the respect for sharing every single strategy the moment I get it. Immediate, which we are immediate effective weapons.
Well, I'll tell you what, I agree with you 100%. I think the strategizing and institution building and system building, that's really what we need. In fact, I think that we need mass curricula to train, just millions of our children, or at least as many, at least a talented 10th, as you mentioned, or that 10% that's willing to build, on how to develop systems. Say it again.
That talented 10% deliver for the rest. I'll tell you exactly from the position of transition of the Black Pound, what our strategy is once all of the partners have put the systems into place, we are purchasing freeholds. So first in the chain, you might say a school because it's our first point of contact with the system. It's not, because everything is run by economics. So the first port of call is to build the chambers of commerce. So when all of the businesses come into one place, first of all, you have all of the economic solutions. And it works that you provide ongoing training, professional seminars, networking, so that you actually create, if you think about one block, which is what a borough is in London, you've now got all of these Black businesses from one block sharing solutions, networking, meeting, and communicating frequently, which makes them a community. Now, when you have that community, you have an organization run by a guy named Stephen Woolley, which is called Operation Black Vote. So you just know from Trump and Hillary, if there's nobody to vote for, there's no point. It becomes academic. Now, what you do when you have that Chamber of Commerce is you field an independent candidate. Now what you do is you teach the majority borough, who is African Caribbean, to vote as a block for the independent candidate. So when they go into local office, this is where all the resources are for schools, colleges, business, and everybody else. So it becomes a literal bank robbery. Now you become empowered, exactly the same as the descendants of Khazarian Empire, Eastern Europeans, who happen to have adopted en masse the religion Judaism. So you understand the concept, and we adopt what works, because we want to be individuals. We're not. All we are is place. So then the second component is the schools. And here, exactly the same as charter schools in the States, free schools don't follow the curriculum. So then you just deliver an African Caribbean educational curriculum. And for me, that goes from nursery all the way through to university. So that's kindergarten all the way through to college. You're delivering your own curriculum, and you understand all of the important books that you've read that will be on that curriculum. Because we are obligated as a people to observe, promote, and uphold our culture. But we've been taught by our indoctrination in miseducation academies to be ashamed. I'm not ashamed to be black in public. I love it. I pride myself on it. I've been known for it. And it's my role to promote it. Via the talented 10%, you tell everybody else it's okay. And you know what you start to see? Total socio-economic reformations. And that is what Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics is about. It's a socio-economic reformation based on the fact that the talented 10% give you permission. So once we extrapolate the brain drain, letting them know there's an organization that will, number one, utilize their skills, but two, financially recompense them. Because you have all the satellite businesses based around the cleaning companies, food delivery. You go across the board. These are private entities, which these guys are going to make money from. And God bless. But where does the power dollar reside? With us.
I love it, man. I love it. I think it's awesome. And I respect it. You know what I love about talking to you, Dean. By the way, everybody who just tuned in, I'm talking to Dean Okai. His website is transitionoftheblackpound.org. That's transitionoftheblackpound.org, because he's in London and we're talking dollars and cents. They're talking pounds, and is it pounds and shillings? Is that right? Or
it was 100 years ago, but we pound.
Okay, so don't let me mess it up. Don't let me embarrass myself. But yeah, but transitionoftheblackpound.org. Hey man, are you on? Can people find you on Instagram or anywhere else?
They can find us on Facebook, and it is Transition of the Black Pound.
Okay, so find him on Facebook. Everybody that's listening, please go support and be a part of this, because to do what he's doing, to implement the systems that he's discussing, and I love listening to him because he's got a plan. He's not just he's not engaging in that false leadership that Dr. Claude Anderson writes about in Black Labor, White Wealth. We're both students of Dr. Anderson. He's not engaging in the false leadership. He's giving you real leadership. He's giving you actual direction. He's giving you a plan. He's giving you something to implement, not just a bunch of yelling and screaming and reacting. He's actually proacting, which means that you act in advance and not after they've screwed you. You prevent them from screwing you in the first place. And I'll tell you that's I love it, because 99% of the problems Black people have could have been prevented if we had planned to stop them before they actually occur. But we sit there, we allow ourselves to be vulnerable. And if you're sitting there vulnerable and then someone comes and they assault you, you're like, oh my goodness, they did it to me again. Well, what are you doing to defend yourself? What are you doing to defend yourself economically? How are you raising your children? You know, are you educating your children the way Dean is educating his son? Are you teaching them about being Black? Are you educating them yourself? Or are you handing your child over to some white woman and then get mad because the white woman is mistreating your child? You know, or when it comes to how you make your money, are you sitting with your family and learning how to build business? Or are you going out and working for your oppressor and then getting upset because your oppressor does what they've been doing to you for 400 years? It doesn't make any sense. So I love what you're doing, man. I got some questions from some of the students. You mind if I throw some questions at you, brother? Okay. The first question is, actually, this one's for me. Adrian wants to know, where can I watch this recording? I'm going to put this recording in with the curriculum at Black Money 103, our entrepreneurship class. So you can go there and check it out. So afterward, you can go log in at blackmoney103.com, or if you're in the stock market program, blackmoney102.com. You can find access to this as well as every other person we bring into the Black Business School. Let's see. Somebody says that they love the fact that you taught your son to be his own boss. So congratulations on that. I know your son's listening, so I want to make sure he knows. Say it again.
That's why I'm not mad at Damon.
There you go. Oh, not mad at Damon. Right. I know what you mean. Yeah, Damon is, you know, he's a strong man, you know, and I think that what you're saying is really the essence of manhood, and you're teaching your son manhood, and his future wife is going to be appreciative that he was raised in a way that he can actually take care of himself and solve his own problems, so that she doesn't have to explain to her children why they can't have any toys or clothes because daddy can't get a white man to give him a job. They'll never have that conversation in your son's household, you know. And so if your son's watching, I want you to know, what's your son's name, brother? Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
Okai. Dean
What's that?
Okai.
Spell it for me.
His name is my name, Dean Okai.
Oh, Dean. Oh, perfect. I love it. So, Dean, little Dean, I want you to hear me when I say this. Your father is a great man. So pay attention to your dad. Yeah, I want to confirm that because I know sometimes our kids, they don't want to listen to us as much as they should. And so I want to make sure he hears it from me too.
That guy, he's my best
Say it again.
friend. That guy is my best friend. He's a mini version of me. And
Wow.
if he had been with me, I would have never had the microphone problem.
I love it, man. I love it. I love it. Well, maybe one day, maybe next time we talk, you can bring your son in. Let him do some talking. I'd love to hear from him. Let's see here. Okay, so Von P. Style is asking, what advice do you have on ego when it comes to Black people working together? You mentioned ego getting in the way. What's your thoughts on that?
This is a personal thing. Do you know the first thing I say is that you got to look in the mirror, and I want 100% of my accomplishments. But you know what I got when I look in that mirror? I got to take 100% of my blame. And I know that I can be quite an overbearing guy as well. So I've got to acknowledge that. If you've had any failed relationships in your life, you've got to acknowledge your part in those relationships. And you transfer these things because, you know, we make excuses and we say it was them and you can look the other way and you can blame somebody else. I don't care if you are 5% responsible, accept all of your responsibility and start to recognize the monster that you are as much as the blessing that you are. And when you understand the monster as much as the blessing, you start to turn down the monster because the monster is not effective in the room. And the minute you quell that noise, and another thing I start to say is the less TV, radio, and media that you take in, because it just does something to your spirit, the more you hear your inner God. God is consciousness. You know, if my spirit didn't resonate with yours, after 5 minutes, the interview becomes strange and we're not talking as guys and you feel funny. So we're spiritual beings. And once you tap into that, your ego will start to dissipate because you become quieter in yourself and you just have less to prove to anybody. And nothing matters that much. And the minute nothing matters that much, you're just looking at what works. And then you deal with solutions. And anybody who's in the room who is making noise that doesn't make that much sense, you see them very quickly because their voice doesn't make sense. And
Oh, it sounds like you went out for a second. I know you guys. I don't know if you guys can hear Dean or
then
not.
what a solution.
Oh, can you repeat that last sentence?
Your
I
ego
think we have a bad connection.
will lie to
Uh-oh. You know what? I think that I'm gonna have to cut this a little bit short, guys, because I think that our connection across the sea just went bad. I think the man must have got word that we were doing that we were doing this conversation. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down and say because he said a lot, and I'm gonna bring back though, and maybe next time we could test out the audio in the video and make sure that he can come through okay. So uh-oh. It looks like he's back for now. Hey Dean, I'm gonna go ahead and shut this down since the connection's so bad. But I'm gonna bring you back, man. And when I come to London, we'll be in London in the fall. So I look forward to getting a chance to interact with you in person, brother. I respect what you're doing. I love what you're doing with your son. You know, you represent the prototype of everything I wish every Black man in America would do. And in fact, I want to publicly invite you if you'd like to join our organization, Black Men United. You represent exactly what we talk to the brothers about. I mean, exactly. Thinking internationally, thinking independently, thinking intellectually, thinking economic strength, raising children in a certain way, protecting Black women. Everything we believe in Black Men United represents that. So anybody who's watching who believes in those values or wants to become more in tune with that, if you're a man, please join blackmenunited.net. That's blackmenunited.net. And so I'm going to bring Dean back, on a regular basis because I think that your ideas are extraordinary, man. So thank you, brother. Okay, it looks like he might have froze up a little bit. So I assume he nodded and said thank you. He gave me the Black man nod. So I'm going to give everybody here the all right, my brother. There we go. It froze. But everybody, I want you to know the person I'm talking to. Please write the name down. Tell people about this brother's great work in the UK. His name is Dean Okai, Okai. His son has the same name. And also his website is transitionoftheblackpound.org, transitionoftheblackpound.org. So go check that out. The site's under construction now, but it'll be ready in a couple of days. Go there, sign up, support, donate, buy something, whatever you can do to support this, because these are great ideas. This is exactly what we need for the future. And we got to really connect internationally, because as Americans, we're a little bit too selfish in our thinking. And so for me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. In case you haven't checked out all of our programs in the Black Business School, feel free to check out our stock market investing class that I teach, as well as our class on how to start a business, a class on how to buy a franchise. We just signed on attorney Tanya Nebo. We just got a credit coaching program together. So we have a lot of stuff in the Black Business School. Feel free to check it out. Go to blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. Also, if you happen to be in Atlanta, Los Angeles, or DC, I'll be in those 3 cities this month. You can go to drboyceatlanta.com to get tickets if you'd like to come out for that, or drboycedc.com, or drboycelOsAngeles.com. So it's all really easy, straightforward. So write that down. And you guys have an awesome day. And thank you once again, Dean. And keep up the great work, man. But he doesn't need for me to tell him to keep up the great work, because I can tell this brother's going to keep going no matter what. So thank you all for hanging out. And I'm going to shut this down before this computer explodes, because we've been having technical difficulties all day. So I don't even think it was on Dean's end. It was probably on my end. But I appreciate you guys hanging out and getting a chance to hear us have these conversations. So take this information. Take this. If you feel motivated, feel motivated. If you feel informed, feel informed. If you're inspired, feel all of that. But then at the end of the day, make sure you act, make sure you put together a plan and build your family up, because nobody's going to do it for us. We got to do it ourselves.